Summer in Kuwait is suffocating from the brutal heat, which makes the slightest movements unbearable. There is no escape on the street. In Kuwait, you sit in your air-conditioned apartment or in an air-conditioned car to go to work with air conditioning or to an air-conditioned shopping mall. Of course, this is absolutely terrible for the environment, but it is the only way to escape from hell outside. It's 69 in the morning, and the temperature in Kuwait rises to 45 degrees and continues to rise. Kuwait's climate has been steadily changing over the years. In the summer months, the temperature in the state now often reaches 50 degrees, and not so long ago it broke all records, 54 degrees Celsius. On July 21, 2016, the hottest day was recorded for the entire time of human temperature measurement on Earth. In the city of Mitribach, the temperature reached 54.3 degrees Celsius. The metropolitan population of Kuwait City, together with the agglomeration, is 4 million people, and these are 4 million really resilient people who can withstand the sweltering heat and sandstorms that hit this city every year. Last summer, it was so hot in Kuwait that birds fell dead from the sky, and seahorses literally boiled in the bay. Dead clams covered the rocks, their shells opened as if they had been steamed. Kuwait last year reached a scorching temperature of 53.2 degrees Celsius, which made it one of the hottest places on Earth. The record heat that happens in Kuwait every season has become so intense that people increasingly find it unbearable. According to scientists, by the end of the century, staying on the street in Kuwait can be life-threatening not only for birds, but also for people. It has been proven that 67% of deaths in the capital of Kuwait are associated with heat and climate change. What is the heat in Kuwait? The feeling will be as if you got into an oven, and a convection oven. Hot air blows into the face and all other parts of the body. The closest that you have met with us, in winter, at the entrance to some metro stations and all sorts of shopping centers, you can get into the jet of the heat curtain at the entrance. Powerful flow of hot air. It feels like something like that. When such hot air blows, you instinctively take a step to the side to get away from the jet of hot air from the heater, fire, heated car, and the like. And only then do you realize that there is no heater jet. It blows everywhere or when you go outside and get into the oven. The brain immediately gives out that something is wrong here, and it takes a couple of seconds to understand that everything is as it should be, that nothing is burning around. The apocalypse has not come. Such high temperatures are compensated by two things. First, air conditioning. Here it is absolutely everywhere, in any diner, bus, car, kennel, and absolutely any room, and I must say that with air conditioning they often bend here. Indoors, you have to sit in a jacket made of the unexpected, cold curtains at the entrances. In general, no less attention is paid to air conditioning here than we do to heating. The second thing that saves is humidity, or rather its absence. The humidity of the air here ranges from 5 to 20%, which is a very low value. In the middle band, this is simply not to be found. The downside of low humidity is that the mucous membranes suffer. It's enough to take a few breaths and everything in your mouth is already drying up. Greenery by itself does not grow here and does not survive. Any greenery exists only if there is a piped water pipe. Almost 70% of the country's population consists of migrant workers, many of whom are engaged in the construction of new office and shopping centers. Although labor law now prohibits working outdoors between 12 and 16 hours, many continue to work during the hottest hours of the day. In the country, conditions for those men and women who are forced to work on the street will only worsen. In the period up to 2035, the average annual temperature in Kuwait will increase by 1.6% to to 28.7 C. Yes, we are in a difficult situation, says the head of the Climate Change Department, not only because of the increase in temperature, but also sea level. The demand for electricity and water will also increase in the future. Wildlife has already been threatened. Dead birds appear on roofs during the harsh summer months, unable to find shade or water. Veterinarians are inundated with stray cats brought by people who found them on the verge of death from heat stroke and dehydration. Even wild foxes leave the desert, which no longer blooms after the rains, for the sake of small green spots left in the city, where they are treated as pests. One of the aspects of Kuwait's struggle with the effects of climate change is oil, which has played and continues to play an important role in the construction of urban landscapes. How will such an energy-intensive city cope if the amount of extracted resources such as oil and water is reduced? By 2030, 30% of the oil produced here will be needed to generate electricity for water. Fresh water is revered here, and there are no problems with it. There is water around the clock in the hotel. There is water on the street, in special taps for free. There are many water towers installed in the city, which seem to have not only a functional purpose, but also emphasize the status of a rich country. After all, water here is more expensive than gasoline. About 99% of fresh water in the country is obtained by desalination, which in itself is an energy-intensive process that currently depends heavily on oil. In addition, the water supply in Kuwait is heavily subsidized by the government. All this suggests that the world, including Kuwait, needs to learn to live without oil. The hot season lasts for 4 months, from May 22nd to September 25th, with a maximum average daily temperature above 40 degrees. The hottest month of the year in Kuwait is July, with an average temperature maximum of 46 degrees and a minimum of 31 degrees. The cool season lasts for 3 months, from November 26th to March 5th, with a minimum average daily temperature below 24 degrees Celsius. The coldest month of the year in Kuwait City is January, with an average temperature maximum of 18. Despite the fact that Kuwait is quite liberal in terms of clothing, you still have to comply with the dress code. There are no specific rules about how you should dress, but if you are a man, then you should avoid showing your bare thighs. And if you are a woman, then showing off your cleavage is a strict no. And if you plan to wear shorts or skirts, then if possible they should be below the knee length. Most women in Kuwait wear discreet clothing, such as a veil, which demonstrates a sense of self-esteem. Although, if you are guests or an immigrant, you are not required to do the same, but try to be modest. One solution is to rethink the architecture of buildings. It is worth thinking about an alternative for large glass buildings based on continuous air conditioning. They should be designed in such a way as to consume the least amount of energy. Architects are often inspired by traditional Persian bactors, wind towers. They draw in air from the street and direct it through a pond at ground level to cool the entire building through the central courtyard. In the 1960s, houses rarely had air conditioners, but it was cool and in the shade even in the hottest months. Now children spend most of the year indoors to protect themselves from the scorching sun or dangerous pollution. What contributes to the deficiency of vitamin D, which people produce under the influence of the sun? Despite this, Kuwait remains one of the largest producers and exporters of oil and continues to pollute the environment. Immersed in political paralysis, he remains silent when the oil states of the region join the countries that set targets for eliminating emissions, but not reducing oil exports on the eve of last year's UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. On the contrary, the Prime Minister of Kuwait insisted on an old promise to reduce emissions by only 7.4% by 2035. Struggling with climate change, The small oil countries of the Persian Gulf are striving to reduce emissions, which are relatively insignificant as part of global efforts to curb warming, but have significant symbolic value. On the other hand, Kuwait is doing nothing. It is paralyzed partly because of populist pressure in parliament, and also because the incomes of many officials regulating emissions are most dependent on oil production. The government has the money, information, and manpower to change the situation for the better, but it is not interested in environmental problems. The country continues to burn oil to generate electricity and is one of the world's leading sources of carbon emissions per capita. While the asphalt melts on the roads, the Kuwaiti people take refuge in shopping malls with powerful air conditioners. Such temperatures are explained by Kuwait's proximity to the Tropic of Cancer, where the sun is directly perpendicular to it, as well as the seasonal Indian Depression, that is, a tropical cyclone from the Indian Ocean, which also spread to Saudi Arabia and southern Iraq. That's all, friends. Share the video, write comments, and be sure to like it if you liked this video. See you in the next video. Bye.